Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And I'd like to thank the following people for sending me in tips: Chris Fallon, Tamara Groff, Neville Goodalls, and Rebecca Rutherford. Guys, as always, thank you for your tips. And if you have a tip, please feel free to send it to me. It saves me a ton of time, and I always appreciate the help. But let's get going, and we are going to start with some American pharmacies. Now, three pharmacies. This is Lynchburg Drugstore in Tennessee, Chesapeake Bay Pharmacy in Maryland, and Milton Medical and Drug in Florida apparently have an unsecured Amazon S3 bucket that contained 1.8 million patient-related records that appeared to be from these pharmacies. Now, the bucket name did not provide basically who owned the bucket, and so, in other words, we're thinking it is a third-party vendor for these three, but the files appear to be text copies of fax cover letters and records and all that kind of stuff from these pharmacies. Now, the faxes were to physicians asking them to approve patient requests for diabetic supplies or other medications. So if you have anything to do with those three pharmacies, heads up. Moving on, we're talking about Luscious. This is apparently an adult dating website. They're exposing private information of 1.195 million people on their website. Now, the leaked information contains usernames, personal email accounts, locations, gender, activity logs, and in some cases, full names. Now, many users, according to my notes here, joined Luscious using their government email addresses. And basically, we are seeing government email addresses coming from places like Brazil, Italy, Australia, and Malaysia. So if you use Luscious for adulting, I guess, adult websiting, heads up to you. Moving on, we're talking about Massachusetts General Hospital. Now, about 9,900 patients who took part in research studies have had their personal information stolen, according to a statement from the hospital this past Thursday. Now, the information included names, birth dates, gender, races, ethnicities, as well as healthcare data like genetic backgrounds, diagnosis, medical history, assessments, and results. So if you have been in a research study, basically with Mass General, heads up, you have a data breach. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the U.S. military and South Korea, as well as South Koreans in general. Now, American troops may have been among the victims of hackers who stole information from more than 1 million U.S. and South Korean credit cards that literally were found listed for sale on the dark web in the past 3 months. This is according to the military. Now, the thefts targeted unspecified business and financial entities in South Korea and included information on at least 38,000 U.S. Issued payment cards. Now, this is according to an alert that was distributed by the 8th Army via its Facebook page on Monday. Now, an unnamed credit union that provides services to the United States Air Force bases in South Korea was among those potentially compromised as well. So if you're in South Korea, whether you're a South Korean citizen or in the U.S. military, heads up, your credit card might have been hit. Moving on, we're actually going to be talking about Mastercard, one of the largest credit cards on the planet. Their European Union formally notified both Belgium and German data protection regulators of basically a data breach concerning their loyalty program. Now, basically, Belgium said in a statement on Friday that the card company had alerted it to a breach detected on August 19th. It said basically the whole episode would have affected a large number of people, and that the significant portion of those people, in other words, the largest percentage of people affected, were actually German. So if you are in Germany or Belgium and you have a MasterCard, heads up to you. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the Rhode Island Ear, Nose, and Throat Physicians. This obviously is an ENT group. They just declared a breach of 2,943 patients, and basically they discovered a server containing medical records. Researchers rather discovered a server containing medical records of patients who received care between May 1st and June 12th. There's no indication that the payment information has been viewed, copied, or misused. That's what they all say because they honestly don't know. Patient data stored on the server included names, dates of birth, clinical information, and a limited number of social security numbers. So if you have anything to do with the Rhode Island Ear, Nose, and Throat Physicians, heads up. Heading on, we're going to be talking about MoviePass. Now, MoviePass is one of those places that gives you a monthly pass to go watch movies at various movie theaters. I know it's here in the United States. I'm sure it's elsewhere as well. They just exposed tens of thousands of customer card data. In other words, credit cards personal credit cards, and all of that because a critical server was not actually protected with a password. This database was massive and contained 161 million records at the time that I'm talking to you here, and apparently it's still growing in real time. Many of these records were normal logging of messages and all this kind of stuff, but many also included sensitive user information as well as MoviePass customer card numbers and all of that. So heads up, if you have MoviePass, you might have been breached. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Cable One, the internet service provider. In May of 2019, they learned that basically somebody through a third-party vendor obtained access to about 14 Cable One employee email accounts. These employee email accounts contain personal information about some current and former employees, as well as their dependents, beneficiaries, and others. Names, addresses, social security numbers, government issue ID numbers, financial account information, digital signatures, medical or personal health information was accessed. So heads up to you if you've ever worked for Cable One. Heading on, we're going to be talking about Collier County, Florida. They basically had 184,000 stolen due to a phishing scheme. Basically, it was a wire transfer to a bank, and somebody basically faked belonging to Quality Enterprises USA, which is a contractor that works with the county, and they got scooped. So heads up to you. Moving on. Let's talk about Lake County, Indiana. They just got hit with a ransomware cyber attack that shut down their email service and many internal applications and all of this, and they are looking to isolate and get that back online. We don't know if any data was stolen, at least not that I could read, but if you have anything to do with Lake County, Indiana, heads up. Now, let's head on over to New Zealand, because the Ministry for Culture and Heritage revealed this past Sunday, about a week ago or so, that more than 300 people had their personal documents compromised following a coding error on a ministry-commissioned website. The 370 plus documents belong to people that applied to take part in the Tuia, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, 250 sailings around the New Zealand coast. This apparently commemorates the 250th anniversary of the onshore meeting between the Maori people and the Europeans. Now, these leaked documents include 28 passports, 55 driver's license, 36 birth certificates, as well as other information such as secondary school IDs and residential visas. So heads up, if you have anything to do with the Tuia 250 sailing in New Zealand, you might be in trouble. Let's head to New Zealand's neighbor, Australia. Now, banks have started warning customers of a fresh new data breach involving pay ID records that was reported to new payment platforms, and this was reported to the NPP, which apparently is the new payment platform overseer for the government of Australia. Now, NPP Australia said that an undisclosed number of pay ID records and associated data in the addressing service were exposed by a vulnerability in one of the financial institutions sponsored into the NPP by Kuzcall Limited. They all go on to say that Kuzcall has confirmed that the client-side technical issues underlying the exposure were identified and resolved immediately. So if you have anything to do with Australia's Pay ID, you might want to check into that. Moving on, we're going to be talking about a company called Focus Brands. Now, Focus Brands owns in the United States Moe's Southwestern Grill, Schlotzsky's, and McAllister's Deli, and they just had a credit card payment scam hit, and apparently on those three chains. And so they're in the process of remediation. Hopefully it has been. They also own Auntie Annie's, Carvel, Cinnabon, and Jamba Juice, but they are saying that those locations were not affected by this. Only Moe's Southwest Grill, Schlotzsky's, and McAllister's Deli. So if you've ever purchased anything from there recently, heads up, your credit card may be compromised. Moving on, we're talking about Arizona State University, or ASU. They just notified 4,000 students that their email addresses were accidentally revealed in a large data breach. This unintended action, it actually is considered a HIPAA violation for healthcare, so I'm guessing it's on the ASU medical side, although the article that I read did not state that. And it basically said the only items of protected health information that were released were students' email addresses. No other protected health information was released. So heads up to you, if you go to ASU and you're a student, you might have been affected by that, but it's just your email address. So it's pretty minor. Hopefully that's the only thing. Now we're going to go through real quick a Pearson update. If you remember Pearson, this is the one that has gotten, or Pearson, that has gotten pretty much every school district or a ton of school districts in the United States breached. And so here are the ones that are now declaring data breaches for their student populations. In North Dakota, we have Fargo Public Schools, Mandan Public Schools, and Bismarck Public Schools. So heads up to you guys there. Pennsylvania in Downingtown, the Chester County Intermediate Unit was hit. Missouri, that's Osage Public Schools out of Osage Beach. Arizona, that's Flagstaff Unified School District. In Massachusetts, it's the Wilmington Public Schools. Connecticut, Putnam School District. In Colorado, it is the Weld RE4 School District. So if you have students in any one of those districts, heads up, the data might have been exposed, especially if they were there prior to 2016 or 2016 and prior. Now, finally, let's talk about pretty much like a half-year review, because we have risk-based security research that has just come out for their 2019 mid-year, what they're calling the Quick View Data Breach Report, and I think these numbers are absolutely fascinating. This is the first 6 months of 2019, and we have seen more than 3,800 publicly disclosed breaches, exposing an incredible 4.1 billion compromised records. And I do breaches of the week every week since January and all of that. And I'm wondering if I did 3,800. I don't think I did that many. So there's probably some that I'm missing here, even though I like to be as comprehensive as I can every week. Now, here's the breakdown. 3.2 billion of those 4.1 billion records came from just 8 breaches. Think about that. 3.2 billion records and 8 breaches, hands down, is absolutely insane. Now, as for the data exposed itself, the report has email, which was contained in 70% of the breaches, and passwords, which was in 65% of the breaches. Those are the 2 largest categories for exposed data. The majority of the breaches reported this year had a moderate to low severity score, which is what the report states, exposing fewer than 10,000 records. Now, I've also just went through breaches of the week here with you, and there was quite a bit. But interestingly enough, the report says, and I completely agree with this, and I've written on this, that human error, hands down, was the worst offender. Now, figures suggest that 60% of the 4,856 personal data breaches reported in the first half of 2019 were a result of human error. 43% were the result of incorrect disclosures. 20% was posting or faxing data to the wrong recipient, emailing information to incorrect recipients, or failing to use the blind carbon copy function accounted for 18%, and 5% were caused by providing data in response to a phishing attack. And I'm surprised because, quite frankly, we have seen a ton of phishing attacks, especially on local governments and all of that. I mean, it's every week. I mean, we literally just had one from Florida, for God's sake. So those are your breaches of the week. Those are your stats for the first 6 months of the year, sitting here at the end of August. And I think, there's a lot to be learned and hopefully a lot to improve on. But were you affected? Let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.